Everybody. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Hello, and thank you for joining us today. We're excited to have you here as part of the Rethinking Ability, a community storytelling workshop. I'm Audrey Coleman. I teach graphic design at the University of Maryland College Park, and I served as director for the Redefinable Challenging Inaccessibility Project. I am a white female with light brown hair, sort of shoulder length. I'm wearing glasses and a red shirt. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers. And I'm zooming from you today with a very neutral sort of cream off-white background. So again, thank you for joining us. We just have some introductions and kind of a little bit of housekeeping stuff to get through, and then we'll jump to our program just as quickly as possible. Thank you to Dr. Nancy Proctor for giving our project the opportunity to be seen at the Peale as part of the Peale. Nancy is working behind the scenes. She's actually doing the hard part of figuring out the technology for our meeting. So if you hear this voice you haven't heard yet so far as part of the program, it might be her, particularly if we run into technical difficulties. But thank you, Nancy, for giving my students this great opportunity to work with stakeholders for the Redefinable project. We do ask that you keep your video and your audio muted unless directed to do otherwise. It'll just help everyone's bandwidth. We will have an opportunity where you can introduce yourselves if you're comfortable with doing that. But if we mute video and audio, it kind of helps with some of the interpretation, the sign language piece as we go along. So again, before we get started with our program, I need to share a few words of thanks to those who've helped make this project possible. Thank you to the financial supporters of both the Peale and the Redefinable Challenging Inaccessibility. These include the Maryland Humanities through support for the National Endowment for the Humanities, the Maryland Historic Trust, and the Maryland Department of Planning, and the Maryland Department of Labor, the Arts and Humanities Research Council in the United Kingdom, the Institute of Museum and Library Science, and the University of Maryland College Park Friedgen Family Design Fund. Any views, findings, conclusions, or recommendations expressed in the Redefinable project or as part of this workshop do not necessarily represent those of these organizations and institutions. A little bit about the Peale. The Peale is based in the oldest museum building in the country. It opened in 1814 by artist Rembrandt Peale. The Peale is a home for authentic Baltimore stories, including those about ability and disability, which motivates our event today. The Peale works with local creators, storytellers, performers, artists, architects, historians, students, educators, and other culture keepers to produce and share their narratives of the city, its places, and the diverse people who have made Baltimore what it is today. We're delighted to have you join us for this workshop, and that you might be able to contribute your story at the end of this program and be a part of this cultural record. By creating a more inclusive cultural record for the city, the Peale aims to help everyone see Baltimore in a new light. So this workshop will last approximately about an hour and a half, and it is being recorded. The recording will be available on the Peale website, and any sort of information and text document will be available, of the presentation will be available on the Peale website as well. And this includes a full transcript of the webinar. There is CART and ASL interpretation. If you need to pin an interpreter, you can either hover over their picture and click, or sometimes if you hover, you'll get some 3 dots that come up. So it kind of depends on your system. But if you need to see an interpreter throughout, that's the way to do that. We have 2 interpreters who are going to be switching off about every 15 minutes as part of this ASL interpretation. And of course, if you need any other tech help, you can use the chat, the Zoom chat feature, or you can also email online at the Peale Center, P-E-A-L-E center.org. And you can reach the Peale on their social media at the Peale, P-E-A-L-E, on Twitter and Facebook, and the Peale Baltimore on Instagram. So we acknowledge this event we begin this event by acknowledging with humility that the lands where the Peale and Baltimore are situated today are the traditional, ancestral, and unceded lands of the Piscataway, Lenape, and Susquehannock indigenous peoples. The vast coastal area today known as Baltimore City, Maryland, sustained indigenous peoples until the arrival of Europeans, beginning in the 1600s. Over the next 400 years, many Piscataway, Lenape, and Susquehannock communities were decimated, absorbed by larger villages or tribes, and or forced by the U.S. federal government to move west beyond the Mississippi River with larger tribes. Since then, other tribal peoples have moved here in diaspora, including Lumbee peoples. On January 9th, 2012, two tribes of Piscataway, the Piscataway Conoy tribe and the Piscataway Indian Nation, became the first tribes recognized by the state of Maryland. In 2017, the state also recognized the Accohannock Indian tribe. We acknowledge the Peale stands on stolen lands, and we would like to acknowledge this history and give thanks that it was adapted from an original text authored by Ryan A. Coons, Peter Dayton, and Ashley Minor of the Lumbee tribe. We also want to say thanks to Sabrina Epstein, Yoshi Nakamura, Joe Olson, and Marguerite Woods, who generously added their voices and their stories to the Redefine Able project. And thank you to Dr. Cheryl Fogle-Hatch, Molly Greenberg, Ruth Losner, and Robin Marquis, who during the 2019-2020 academic year collaborated with my students and served as sounding boards, knowledge experts, and friends of the project, of the Redefinable project. Their participation strengthened this project in so many ways. And finally, of course, thank you to the students of the University of Maryland 2020 graphic design cohort. They did a fantastic job taking on the issues of disability, accessibility, inclusion, and ableism, and created the Redefinable project, which prompts this event today. And of course, thanks to all of the Peale staff who helped make the exhibit happen and today's workshop happen. We're delighted to have this as part of the Redefinable project. So Redefinable Challenging and Accessibility is an online social media exhibit that addresses diversity, inclusion, and ableism, and seeks to engage audiences about the successes and challenges of persons with disabilities in Maryland and beyond. Before COVID-19 hit, the project was scheduled to be in 2 different physical spaces and on a website. It is now transitioned into an online social media exhibit located at the Peale site. And although Redefinable focuses on disability and ability, the ideas of accessibility and inclusion apply to all minority groups and communities. Disability is not a mutually exclusive category. Anyone, no matter what age, race, gender, or other category of human diversity, can have or develop a disability. And that intersectionality of different identities and experiences can bring even more challenges to vulnerable populations. And this becomes sort of the foundation from which we build our workshop today. And quickly, lastly, before I turn it over, I do want to introduce our facilitator today, Kosi Dunn. Kosi is a writer, poet, teacher, and artist. He has a demonstrated history of working with nonprofit organization management and youth program industries, and has experience with community organizing and storytelling. He developed his own major at University of Maryland through the what they call the Individual Studies Project on transmedia storytelling. By the age of 17, he was performing poetry at locations such as the Busboys and Poets and other venues. He's been active with Split This Rock, an organization that leverages spoken word and poetry to address social injustice. I'm going to put a link in the chat in just a minute to one of Kosi's performances at the Kennedy Center. It was part of the Split This Rock Youth Poetry Slam, and it's really wonderful. I encourage you to watch it. Open it in another browser, watch it after, or bookmark it to watch it after the conclusion of the workshop. But you get an idea of some wonderful work that Kosi's been doing as a poet. So Kosi grew up with a deaf parent and lives in the Washington, D.C. area. And Kosi, I'm going to turn it over to you. And if you'll start by just describing yourself and the environment from which you're joining us today.
Wow. Thank you so much for that lovely introduction. My name is Kosi. I am a Black, brown-skinned man, 25 years old. I have kind of bushy-ish afro that's not very, sheened up right now. I'm wearing a muted purple shirt. And my background is white, a creamy white with some shadows going on in the corner of my basement office. I would like to start with a poem of my own, and I promise it's the last poem of mine that you have to listen to. But I appreciate you all for being here, and I just want to open up this space with this piece. And so I'm going to share my screen. If you are able, you can watch on the screen. If you are able, you can listen to the words. And if you would like to see this piece again, I feel I'm happy to share it with you. It is something that I wrote while I was at the University of Maryland about 5 years ago. On losing your first language. Where I'm from, we talk with our hands. At the dinner table, my grandmother handles grace. Mom is tracing the prayer at the tip of her finger. I read the wrong God. When Dad asks about the thing you love today, you are a silenced heart, a passion held hostage by wordless palm. My sister feeds me signs between gulps of sorrow. I was not always mute. Absence must be learned. I have carried too many sounds. Their signs now fall to the floor. Nobody bothers to pick them up. And I am drowning in what I cannot tell my father. That was one of the first poems that I wrote where I was exploring topics of disability and ableism. My origins in spoken word and narrative and writing started very early, but for a long time, and I don't know if there's other writers in this space, writing about my family and my relationship to my family wasn't something I was preoccupied with when I was young. And slowly, as I begin to understand myself, I started to look back on my relationship with my parents and how my relationship with them and our capacities to communicate with each other shape the way I communicate with the people I love and see throughout the day. But we can get deeper into all of that jazz in a couple of moments. I would like to, if you are able, if you are willing, if everyone who's participating in this workshop can turn on their video, so I can get a look at your beautiful faces. I would love for us to, because it's such a small and tight, intimate group, I would love for us to introduce ourselves, especially because in this digital space, it can feel as though you are by yourself. And that is certainly not the case. We have so many beautiful folks who are joining us today to create stories. And I think when more than one person is gathered in a place to write a story, some magic happens. So just so I can get a sense of who we are and what we're working with. If folks can, and I will point, or I will not only point, I will say the name on your Zoom chat. And if you can just quickly introduce yourself with your name, the pronouns you use, right? So if I'm going to refer to you, will I use she? Will I use they? Would I use he? Where you're from, if you feel comfortable with that. Any intentions that you have with this workspace, with this workshop. And one thing you'd like to change about your house, your room, or the place you are working in. All right, I'm going to put those quick prompts, and these are, of course, guidelines. You can check in with whatever you want as long as you include just your name. That's my only requirement. So your name, the pronouns you use, where you're from, any intentions you have in the space, and specifically one thing that you would like to change about your house, your room, or your workplace. I will go first, and then I'll pass it off to Pat. So Pat, you are on deck. My name is Kosi. I use he, him pronouns. I am from College Park. Well, I'm from PG County, Maryland. My intentions with this space is to arm you all with some quick and simple tools for telling an effective story. If you all seem like you've already storytelling experts, this will really just be a space where we can kick it and chat and maybe write something cool. And the one thing I like to change about my basement workspace is I am 6'3", and I think the ceiling is like 6'6". And sometimes I don't want to go outside and do my yoga. And when I'm doing sun salutations, I'm like slamming on the ceiling. And so I would love for a taller basement ceiling. I pass it up to Pat, and I thank you so much, Laura, for putting your introductory info in the chat. I can't wait to read that after the folks.
Okay. I'm Pat. I live in Baltimore. I'm always happy to join everything the Peale is doing these days because of the really rich, inclusive practices that are going on. I've worked my whole career in disability justice work, and let's see, one thing I would change. I don't know, I'm pretty lucky to have a good indoor space in my house in Waverly, and a beautiful backyard where the butterflies are starting to come. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pat. House goals. Butterflies in the backyard, I love it. Jeanette?
Hi, I'm Jeanette Garrity Gomez, she, her, hers. I'm from Prince George's County too, so yay, from Camp Springs. I'm living up in Baltimore. I am a professor at MICA, Maryland Institute College of Art. I teach in humanistic studies. I work with English language learners, and I'm doing a lot of work with accessibility, disability, teaching it in my classes about disability justice, and doing a lot of professional development at MICA. I actually have to tell you, I just painted like 2 weeks ago. So I'm really happy with my very bright pink wall. And I have my, I have a little, it's like a front of a house from El Salvador, because that's my other special place. My kids are half Salvadoran. So anyway, that's me. I think that's good. Is that good?
Excellent. And it's a beautiful color. Excellent work.
Thank you.
We'll pass it off to Lee.
Everybody, I'm Lee. He, him, his. Originally from New York and California, but live here in Baltimore. I also work at MICA. Thanks, Jeanette, for that. I co-direct our Center for Social Design, and so really interested from that perspective on some of the work that you're doing, and storytelling is a really important part of what we do and in our work with our students. What I would change, I live in this really historic old church rectory on the top floor, which is amazing and beautiful, but it's crazy hot. So I guess the one thing I would change is I wish it was a little bit cooler up here. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you so much, Lee. It looks really cool. Like, I like the angular lines and the light coming out, but you know, we'll work on that AC system for you. Heather. Oh, I can't hear you, Heather.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Heather Shelton. I'm originally from Virginia Beach, Virginia, so I'm a water person, a woman of the water. She, hers are my pronouns, and I think the one thing that I would change about my office space, which I actually really like, I've just recently sort of organized my lovely bookcases in the background, so I've got like a nice, neat projection in the background. But I'm the digital curator at the Peale, and I work with a ton of different stories from multiple storytellers all over the city. So I'm tasked with sort of coming up with a little bit of order to the stories that people record and send to us. So I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to say.
Wow, thank you so much, Heather. And I am a big fan of a good bookshelf.
Yes.
Yours. Hey, Toriano.
I like my name much better when you say it, Kosi. My name is Anne. I am from Pittsburgh. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I live in Lauraville in Baltimore City. And I'm a theater maker, and I've been taking some time during lockdown to try and expand where my focus is. Usually I'm in the rehearsal room with other performers and directors, and I would like to read more and know more about what other artists are doing, which is what brought me here today.
Awesome.
And my space is a tangle of extension cords. I have 3 monitors on my desk, which tells you something about my mental state, I think. But I would like to declutter and simplify and streamline.
Oh, don't we all? Don't we all? A tangle of extension cords. That's a good phrase. That's good writer language. Save that. Gussie.
Hi, I'm Gussie Lehman. I am pronouns she and her, and I'm also in PG County. I'm in Hyattsville, Maryland, and I am interested. I love the programming that Peale does, and it's been something that pops regularly into my life while on at home work, teleworking. I work for the National Museum of the American Indian. I work where the collection is housed in Suitland, Maryland, and I'm a media producer. And so my whole life is about storytelling. And I was interested and drawn to this about the diversity in storytelling, and particularly that intersection with ability and storytelling. So that's what drew me to this particular seminar. And things have changed about the house. I would like to get my office back. Right now, I am working at my dining room table, and my office has been taken over by some rescue cats. And so I am in the process of trying to save these cats. So I have turned that physical space over to a cattery at the moment. And I would like to actually have an office again. That all happened before I got quarantined and couldn't actually change it all back yet. So that's it.
Well, we are grateful for your generosity, and I'm certain that the cats are really digging your office.
I don't think they like it too much, but we're getting better.
Shout out to Laura and Henrice. Thank you so much for sharing your story, a little bit about your story, in the chat. I encourage you all to peruse. I promise you're not paying attention. And that the last question was really for me to get a sense of, to have us all start thinking about comfort. I think that in a particular moments where there are a lot of things changing about the way we understand the world around us, we are immediately flung away from our spaces of comfort and into spaces of challenge, correct? And what I would like to sort of offer as a loose community guideline for the time that we're going to be spending with each other. We're going to be spending an hour with each other, right? A whole hour of our lives. And we're going to be doing something that requires safety. We're going to be creating art together. And we can't create art unless we feel safe. It's impossible. It's impossible to do something brave when you do not feel safe. Yanis also introduced themselves in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. And I encourage, again, all of you all to read if you're able. And hey, hi Maya, thank you for coming through. Thinking about our immediate spaces, thinking about the spaces we call home, the spaces that we spend the majority of our time in. It is a privilege to be comfortable in this space. It is. It is a privilege that I wish everyone enjoyed, and that it is possible for everyone to enjoy. So the small things that you would change about the places that you are in, you feel that you are comfortable in. Thinking about, oh, I would like to change the color, or I would like to raise the roof, are things that we have the privilege of enjoying. But some folks, I would like to be able to get to the second floor of this building. I would like to be able to also participate in this visual art as someone who cannot see or is visually impaired. I would like to be able to participate in this storytelling workshop that is happening largely auditory. And so thinking about these small things of areas of, oh, how can I make my immediate space more comfortable? Thinking about how this is a jumping off point to thinking about universal design. And because all of you all seem already sort of well introduced to the ideas of ableism and disability, quickly, universal design is a belief system. It is a framework of thinking about the spaces that we occupy and building spaces and maintaining spaces where everybody can participate. The idea is that if we build for the folks who have the least access, if we build space for the most marginalized person, then we allow everybody in their multiplicity and their multiple identities, and we allow all folks to enjoy this space. Now, when we think about disability, it is easy and it is common practice to come from a space of lack, right? I think of disability, I think of all the things that folks do not have. So before we do this, I would like for you all, and this is one of 3 prompts that we will be doing, and these prompts are just to warm up our storytelling engine and create words and start writing together. I want us to quickly, as quick as you can, list 15 things with a piece of paper or on your phone or on your laptop. The idea here is speed. It's not well thought out flowery language. I want 15 things that you can do right now. And so we're going to take 3 minutes for you to make a list of 15 things that you can do. All right, thank you. How was that experience? Does anyone want to share how that experience was for them? In warming up to do this workshop, I always do my prompts that I am planning to assign. I always do them while I'm doing the prep. One, so that I may have some examples, but two, I don't believe in making someone write something that I wouldn't write myself. And in doing it, some weird ones came up. And this is usually when we get to like the 10th. And so some that surprised me were, I can digest peanuts and gluten. I can calm myself without the need for external medication. I can see clearly. Did anyone else have some that they'd like to share? And this is taking inventory and taking gratitude, right? There's a belief that you can't receive any more unless you are given gratitude for what you do have and what is possible for you. So anyway, we want to invoke something that they are able to do. Ooh, a weird one for me, for Laura. I know what time it is. Did anyone else write that or something like that? Nalia said, I'm able to find ways to do what I need/want, such as climb on something to get things out of my reach. I can use Italian Sign Language. If I'm going to Italy, I'm taking Giannis with me. And then we can go to all the cool Italian deaf spots. That'd be fresh. Often naming our experiences and naming our capacities allow us to be more open to other folks' contrary experiences. I didn't realize how much I took for granted my digestive system as a 25-year-old, right? Things that I eat. I can eat mostly anything. I don't have to ask, does this have peanuts in it? Is this gluten-free? My sister is allergic to milk or lactose intolerant. These are things that folks are carrying with them. And so when we think about universal design, when we think about a space that includes all of us, right? It may be a wide open and well-lit area so that folks who communicate in ASL or any other sign language can always, at most points in their conversation, be able to move and speak, right? It's also creating a diet or a culture of dieting where folks do not feel ostracized for going to a restaurant and folk look at them some certain type of way because no one accounted for them. And so when we're writing as writers or as visual storytellers, as narrative designers, right, folks who craft stories, thinking about what our assumptions are about our audience is important. And not just for speaking about disability, not just for speaking about universal design, but does your world, right? Or there's a popular idea right now that you hear a lot in storytelling circles about world building, right? Creating new worlds. This can be fantastic, right? Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings, or this can be on a quote unquote mundane level of I am building out this world in my coffee shop. I'm trying to communicate to you my passionate love story with the barista who doesn't know my name. In your world, are you accounting for everybody? Is this cafe that you are creating in this story, is it accessible? Are there stairs? Is there a space, a way for folks in wheelchairs to get up? Are there ramps? This is not a challenge. Well, it's a challenge. This isn't a problem. This is a challenge for us. How can we tell stories that everyone can be participants in? If you have any questions or feel moved to speak, please, please let me know. I am going to ask if folks can mute their video. This will allow for the interpreter's video to be larger. So folks who need that, if you can mute your video, and so that our interpreter can be sort of more spotlit. Thank you. I personally enjoy looking at all of y'all's beautiful faces, but I feel like we've seen each other's faces now. And now I'd love to center and make it more accommodating for all folks, right? And speaking about that, there is, again, comfort versus accessibility, right? I'm comfortable looking back at all of you all's faces, but I understand that my desire for this to be an inclusive and open environment for us to share our work and create work supersedes my desire for comfort in this moment, if that is generative for any of you all. And now that we've begun thinking, or at least started seeds of thinking through ability, disability, and universal design, right? This idea, this notion that if we create for the most marginalized, that everyone can participate in the experience. We need to arm ourselves with a couple of tools. There is a feature, I'm looking for it right now. There's a feature on Zoom where you can raise your hand. I don't see it up here. And well, I would love to know more about this concept of deaf gain and deaf blind gain, Giannis. Do you mind if you can share that with me? If you have video at your disposal, you can feel free to sign it. Actually, I want to know if my interpreters are capable of voicing as well. I don't want to add on more, but I'm very curious about this idea of deaf gain and deaf blind gain, Giannis. And if you don't mind sharing, I would love to know more about it. Nancy, if you don't mind turning on our video, Giannis's video quickly.
Sure, give me 1 second.
Awesome, and thank you so much, interpreters, for volunteering to voice.
Okay, so what I'm able to do is ask, oh, there we go, perfect.
Cool.
Hello, everyone. Interpreters, do you see me just fine? Great, great, great. So when you're talking about deaf gain, it's signed as, it's not signed as given. There's 3 different signs that I've seen. Some use like something that you contribute to the world. Some use as benefit. For example, captioning. there wasn't captioning for a long time as ubiquitous as it is now, but the deaf community kept fighting for it. And now it's used for people who are English second language learners. It's used for other people who can't hear well, or in places like bars where there's a lot of background noise. You know, so that is it's also used as contribution, because there's been a lot of research about language acquisition that originated in the deaf community. Sign language does help children who are not deaf learn to speak earlier. It also helps children who may be 1 or 2 years old who are babbling, and they can babble and sign as well and start to pick up language a little bit earlier. It's unfortunate that at one time the world basically banned teaching sign language to young children and babies, and they would allow, ironically enough, teaching sign language to hearing children. And as far as deaf, blind, when you look at templates, you look at videos, you look at image description, you look at many things of how we talk about how other countries maybe don't have images that are good on the internet or on television in those other countries, but by providing that transcript, it provides accessibility to things where the video is not clear or where that information may not be as accessible. And that started in the blind and deafblind community. So when you look at Gallaudet University as well, and you look at that type of universal design and deaf space, things like having larger space to walk and sign with one another, larger hallways, larger stairwells, things of that nature, so that you can still continue to move around and have that visual communication, because we don't depend on auditory sound, we depend on that visual communication. So hallways are wider, so you can walk and still have space to sign. And that also gives extra space for people who may be in wheelchairs, or extra space for people who cannot see as well and need that extra space. We also have different lighting, as opposed to having that bright fluorescent light that's not helpful for many people. So we have 2 buildings at Gallaudet's campus that have been turned into deaf space, or were designed with deaf space in mind. Hopefully that continues on. It has continued to influence some of the other buildings on the 6th Street development, right adjacent to Gallaudet University. So that is it's called deaf space. That's what the concept is called. And hopefully in the future that will become more of a universal design principle. So that is basically a synopsis of deaf gain and deaf blind and blind gain.
Thank you so much, Yanis.
Hopefully everyone understood me. Was I clear? Oh, great, thanks.
What I love so much about these concepts is the idea that we all benefit from them. My partner is not hard of hearing or deaf, but they are originally from Ghana. And so listening to English, you know, it takes them a while. And so they love watching everything with subtitles, just because. As a writer, growing up in a deaf household, the subtitles were my favorite thing to read. I was getting screenplay lessons, you know? I was not only watching this thing and experiencing this thing, but also looking at it in the way of how this narrative is being constructed, how is dialogue happening. And so this idea that not only does this allow folks who have been systematically locked out of certain spaces to just be able to participate, but it also improves the lives of folks who have certain abilities. My father works in the Hearing and Speech Center at Gallaudet, and it is just beautiful. It's just a beautiful space as well. And so I really, really appreciate you for dropping those bars. Now I would like to shift to talking about storytelling in general. Now, this is not going to be an advanced fiction writing workshop. What we need to move forward in telling our own stories is to understand the purpose and components of storytelling. Now, human beings are very strange because we construct lies that happen in our brains that consolidate history, culture, experience. One can argue that storytelling is the act of distilling an experience, both personally felt or imagined. You are taking an experience, bundling it up, and then sharing it with folks. That's all you are doing. And knowing that, you then have the hopefully comforting realization that you are not making anything. You are distilling an experience. You have already experienced it. You have already dreamed it up or witnessed it. So what you are doing is not something that you are adding or giving. You are editing. You are distilling. You are boiling down the experiences that you've already had and imagined and sharing them with someone. There are three components to a good story. There is a character. This is who the story is happening to. Oftentimes in my medium of poetry, I am the character. I begin from the I. And I would encourage you for this particular workshop to work through the I. It is easy, especially for folks who have identities that are that society creates for and with, to remove the I in abstract situations. But if anyone has experienced a good story, they're experiencing the person and the intimacy of one person sharing things with them. And I would like for that to be you for this workshop. Though, in the rest of your writings, feel free to go fantastic. So there's the character. This is who the thing is happening to, I. There is the setting. Now, in a quick piece of performance poetry, in a ephemeral act of theater, or in a picture setting where the story happens gets muddy. But sometimes what helps me is thinking of setting and mood as two vibes that help each other. If there is no concrete setting, like if we do not know that this happened in the 70s on a boardwalk in the month of May, we may know this place is warm. We may know this mood is uncertain. Mood can also be setting. How I feel in this space, how I am in this space can also be a way to think through setting. So we have a character, we put them in a place, but that is not a story. That is a Tuesday. What we as storytelling creatures are always moved by is conflict. Or I would have told you conflict if I didn't think more critically about what people participate in stories for. Why do people go to an audience, or why do people become part of an audience? Why do we open up a book? Sure, it's to fall in love with cool characters that we aspire towards or want to understand. Sure, it's because the setting is very interesting. But at the end of the day, what keeps you turning the page is desire. And desire creates conflict. When a character is in a place and they want something, now you're hooked. Because regardless of whether you feel about this character or this place, you have wanted something in your life, and you have experienced the feeling of trying to get it. It is one of the most comforting aspects of a story. James Baldwin says, we think our suffering is the only kind in the history of the world until you read. Until you read. Because then you realize that you are not the only one. And you have never been the only one. Because this person in this place wanted something. So we have me, we have my mood, and we have my desire, all acting to distill one particular experience, or to begin distilling many types of experience. And now it is time for us to write. And so this will be a warm-up until we spend some time really writing about our particular experiences of inaccessibility, or a time you witnessed an experience of inaccessibility. Before we get there, that's our goal. We will craft a story about a time where we experienced inaccessibility, or a time where we witnessed someone experiencing inaccessibility. But we need to start building up a vault of words, right? It's like, where do I begin with this blank page? So I would like you, if you have the means, to make 3 lists. I want you to choose a character. Too late, I chose one for you. It's you. And I want you to make a list of 10 words that describe you. Long, tall, black, joyful, brilliant. Those are words. If you're feeling fancy, if for the advanced folks, I want you to take 10 images, not just words, right? Long as a bridge, purple and humming, taller than a building, right? Pull out those phrases for the advanced folks. But at the end of the day, we are creating a bank of images and a bank of words for our character. And I want you to do the same thing for setting. Now, if you are remembering what the purpose and the intention for this is, for us to write about an experience of inaccessibility, I want you to start imagining the place where you experienced this, and what you had on, and what you looked like. And I want you to begin to generate words or phrases or images that link you back to that space. I can't not think of my mother when I smell Orville Redenbacher's popcorn kernels. And so if I was going to write about my mother, I would say Pauline Dunn smells like popcorn kernels. She feels like them too. And so what you're doing right now is you're making 2 lists. You already know the character, but put them in a setting where you experienced inaccessibility. Either you witnessed it or you personally experienced this. We are drawing from real life. And we'll take, y'all are super advanced, so we'll only take 5 minutes for this, because hopefully some of y'all got excited and have already started writing. All right, I know some folks are probably just got the bug and want to write. And if you are, keep writing. I'm in the background. Don't even worry about me. This is a guided meditation for you. But if you now start to generate a character, this image, you started to crystallize yourself in that particular moment where you experienced inaccessibility, You started to paint the room where it happened. Sorry, I've been watching Hamilton. If you want to paint this room through language and image, also as an aside, if you are a visual artist and you physically want to paint this, you can totally do that. That would be awesome. But for the folks who are writing as a jumping off point to creating other types of media, you have this character, you have this setting, and now we need some desire. We need some conflict. Because essentially conflict is, you know what this character wants and where they have to do to go to get it. And the question, the conflict is, will they? Right? Will they? Will the heroes ... I want you to make now a third list, and you are going to label this list conflict. And I would like for you to, thinking about this character yourself in that setting where you experienced inaccessibility, to create a list of 10 wants. At that time, what did you want? What did you want? And spoiler alert, the third thing you write on that list isn't it. It's most likely going to be on the 8th, 9th, 10th try. A lot of writing is getting the gunk out the way, getting the thing I'm supposed to say out the way through quick writing, so that you can start telling yourself what you really wanted, inviting yourself to see what you really wanted. I witnessed at the coffee shop a man laughing at the kid who was in a wheelchair. And what I wanted, sure, I think what I wanted was for the kid not to be in a wheelchair. Sure, what I wanted was for this place, for that person who was making fun of him to be a different person. But what I really wanted was to be the type of man who would go up to that person and say, "Not cool, bro." What I really wanted was to be brave in a moment where I was actually just comfortable. Right? And so in your conflict list, write, "I want" 10 different times, or "I wanted," and finish those. Give me 10 of them. You got 3 minutes. Awesome. I know it was unfair. It was unfair for me to give you only 3 minutes to get to the core of your desires, but you don't need to get to them yet. This was just the beginning. We are just putting the water, we were what, letting the rice just, soak in the water for a while. We just got it boiling, and now we will start to cook. But first, I will share with you some recipes. I'm putting a link into the chat. It is a 10 poets with disabilities. And I will read one poem from here, and then I'll read another poem. The first poem is about someone writing through, is someone writing through physical disability, specifically cerebral palsy. And we are taken through this person's experience. The second one is a poet writing through a mental disability and them evoking their experience. Now, to read the poem, you will click on the link and there's a bunch of poems. I want you to scroll down or Control F. And I want you to find Latif McLeod. I will put that down in the chat as well. The poem is titled, "I Am Too Pretty for Some Ugly Laws." I am tired of my own voice right now, and I'm hoping someone will feel brave and will want to read this poem instead of me. But if no one jumps in, you're going to be stuck with my voice again. Would anyone care to read the poem, "I Am Too Pretty for Your Ugly Laws"? I will share my screen as well, so you can read it. But if someone would love to read it aloud,
I don't mind reading.
oh, thank you so much. Who was that? Tell me who you were who saved my life.
My name's Maya.
Maya, thank you so much, Maya. You are the realest one out here in these streets.
Okay. Latif McLeod, I am too pretty for some ugly laws. I'm not supposed to be here, in this body, here, speaking to you. My mere presence of erratic movement, moving limbs, and drooling smile used to be scrubbed off the public pavement. Ugly laws used to be on many US cities' law books, beginning in Chicago in 1867, stating that any person who is diseased, maimed, mutilated, or in any way deformed so as to be an unsightly or disgusting object, or an improper person to be allowed in or on the streets, highways, thoroughfares, or public places in this city, shall not therein or thereon expose himself to public view, under the penalty of $1 for each offense. Any person who looked like me was deemed disgusting and was locked away from the eyes of the upstanding citizens. I am too pretty for some ugly laws, too smooth to be shut in, too smart and eclectic for any box you put me in. My swagger is too bold to be swept up in these public streets. You can stare at me all you want. No cop will bust in my head and carry me away to an institution. No doctor will diagnose me a helpless invalid with an incurable disease. No angry mob with clubs and torches will try to run me out of town. Whatever you do, my roots are rigid, like a 100-year-old tree. I will stay right here to glare at your ugly face too.
Oh Lord! Wow, Latif with some words for that ass. I don't know if I was allowed to say that. I'm going to get in trouble. Thank you for that lovely and impassioned reading, Maya. I am grateful for your bravery. I will share one more poem. I will not be reading it. But this is a poet whose work I am familiar with, and I'm grateful through preparing. To answer Giannis's question, this poem is not in ASL. I would encourage you to check out, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Michelle Banks. I will put her name in the chat. She is a Black deaf poet and theater director, performer. I had the privilege to work with her, I think this was 8 years ago, on a project called In Sight and Sound, where deaf poets and hearing poets collaborated on some art pieces. I will hit her up and I'll slide that to the folks at Peale. Big fan. My dad, Lindsay Dunn, who is a coworker of yours, he's a professor at Gallaudet. He introduced me to her, and her work has always been brilliant. I don't know. I put this link down. The link is How Poetry Helps Us Understand Mental Illness. This is a poet, Shira Ehrlichman. She is writing an ode. An ode is a love poem, a poem describing love, to lithium, a pill she takes for her bipolar disorder. And so often we are racked with guilt when writing about disability. And this I love because it's love. Can I get someone quickly? I would like to have time for the last prompt. So can I get someone quickly to read this? Not read it quickly, but can I quickly get a volunteer? For the interest of time, you are stuck with me. You played yourselves. Ode to Lithium, 140, natural. Each subway car will be left on the ocean floor to be assimilated into the ecosystem. Over time, every surface will be covered in life, creating an artificial coral reef. These are from stunning photos showing New York City subway cars being dumped into the ocean. Today, I don't want to take you, so I imagine you a subway car push you over my edge to rust at my seafloor. Ferment and flower, metallic traveler. I've been thrown off my axis. Sorrow's my monogamous love. Once I shunned you, wanting to be natural. Tea tree milk, sprouted cashews, bark deodorant, natural. Stopped taking you, and soon was lost in snow, stroking branches for hours, walked jagged circles, muttering sudden secrets revealed by ice, wept. Against my will, I swallow 2 busted down caterpillars, let you sink to the bottom. It's not personal, I tell myself. Even the sea needs, even the sea needs, the sea needs, even the sea. In a perfect world, outside of the constraints of time and space, we would have a chance to talk about how these poems made you feel. I encourage you to share those poems with someone, a stranger, someone you're stuck in quarantine with, your journal, and talk about them. because that's how we grow as writers. We read things, we write things, and we talk to people. But I would like for you to spend the next 10 minutes writing, finishing up an idea that you may have had earlier, reviewing your word bank and your character and your setting and those desires, and just with all that written down on the page, start somewhere and go. For those who need prompts, hi, I'm one of them. Write about an experience of inaccessibility. Write about an experience where you did not have access, or you witnessed someone without access. Give me that moment. Conjure it for me. That's what we do as people. That's what we do as storytellers. We distill our experiences and we share them to folks. That's all you gotta do for the next 9 minutes, is to take your character, which is you, take the setting, which could be a place and or a mood, and to write about your desires, both in that memory or experience, and because you are out of that experience, you can allow yourself presently to inform it. But most importantly, don't stop writing until I tell you to. And you can hit me up in the chat if you have any questions. Hey folks, because we have a hard, not too hard deadline of 6 p.m., I have to do the one thing I hate, and I have to stop you from writing. And I really hope this was a generative experience. Um, my writing instructors and my mentors have always told me that the workshop is the beginning of a writing experience. It is a doorway. Prompts are just doors. And luckily, you don't need much to continue. You have your thoughts, you have your feelings, and all you need is a place to put them down in. And so I encourage you to continue writing after, when we leave each other. And I would like to invite Audrey back up to our virtual stage just for a few more minutes, just to talk about the feedback for this workshop and maybe describe some ways that you can participate. Ideally, we will take these stories and we will put them up on the Redefine Ability, the Redefine Able site. If you are interested in checking out any of my work, most of it is forthcoming, so gotcha. But you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I just really just rant at not Kosi. And I'd love to, virtually say what's up. Thank you so much for having me in this space. I'm honored to share this space with you, and I'm grateful that you took something helpful. I can't wait to see what you all write, and Audrey is back.
All right, thank you, Kosi, so much. So we do want to be mindful of our time, especially for interpreters. I feel like we could just go on and on, but again, just want to be respectful of the fabulous work that they're doing and the commitment that they've made to us. So we have two questions. If you could chat, just put these answers in the chat. If you're comfortable, you can chat these answers to everyone. If you'd rather chat me, I'm Audrey Buck Coleman. If you'd rather chat me privately, I'll keep those separate and they won't be seen by everybody. But the first question is to know what did you learn? Maybe something, a new experience, a new information that you gained from this workshop. So I'll give you just a minute to write your responses in there. And then I'll be back with the second question that I'd also love for you to respond to. So again, something you learned, something that made an impression upon you, something maybe you understood in a different perspective because of this workshop. And then the second question, again, if you're comfortable, you can chat me privately. You can type this in the chat to me privately or into the group chat. Is there anything that you have a question about from today's workshop? Maybe something you'd like more information on. Please let us know that. We are still planning additional events in terms of the Redefine Able project. Also, the Peale, of course, is looking for more stories and adding to this cultural record. So we were interested in what maybe you would like more information on, what you'd like more clarity on, something else you might be interested in hearing or learning more about. If you can add that to the chat now. Thank you all. We really appreciate your feedback. It's really important to us to help know what's made an impact on you, what might still continue to be something of interest. Again, as we add more programs, do continue to follow the Peale and also at Redefine-Able, and so that you can find out more about the events and things that we're having in conjunction with the project. You'll see in the chat, I've also put a link to a survey. This is a little bit longer survey, but again, we would really appreciate your input on this. Again, it really helps shape and let us know who's been a part of our events, what has resonated with you, and so what we might take away and shape for future events at the Peale, and also about accessibility and inclusion. So thank you, as Nancy Proctor said, thank you for staying for the whole workshop. It's fantastic. We're really grateful for your participation in this event. If you would like to record and share your story as part of the Peale's cultural record, if you go to thepeale.org, you'll find a link at the top that says Baltimore Stories. You can listen to stories there. There's also a tab at the top that says Add a Story. You can do those a few different ways. One is through the website, and the browser will take you to a space where you can record and listen to stories. They also have an 800 number. So if your Wi-Fi is not the best, or people who are separated by that digital divide but still would love to record a story, you can also do that on that 800 number. So, and actually I will go to that space now and find that. So again, but the Peale is really wanting to be a place for stories, for storytellers, and being a place to share your stories. So you can listen to some stories, you can add your stories there with those experiences. Actually, Nancy, if you wouldn't mind putting that 800 number into the chat for everyone, that just in case they would like to use that option for telling a story. Oh, now I have it. So I can put that in here. Oh, Nancy's beat me to it. Great. So anyway, thank you so much for our interpreters for being a really great asset in terms of this workshop. Thank you so much to Kosi for your wonderful guidance and inspiration in walking us through being able to tell these stories. Thank you to the Peale staff for help making the event possible. And again, thanks to all of you for joining us today. This will conclude our event. It will be recorded, and you will be able to watch it and access the event later on the Peale's website. So Nancy, I will ask you if there's anything else you would like me to conclude with before you stop the recording.
No, thank you so much. I'm just thrilled with this. It was a wonderful experience, and I think everybody who's participated agrees. So thank you, Audrey, for organizing this. Thank you, Kosi, for leading us. Thank you to our interpreters and to Catherine, our CART transcriber. We look forward to hearing from you all. And if you happen to be available on Saturday, August 15th, it's our birthday. The Peale turns 206 years old, and we will be having a wonderful virtual open house, including visits to a virtual Peale in Second Life. So come and check us out, and you can find more information on our website. We'll paste the URL into the chat now.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks again. Bye-bye. I'll stop the recording now.